Hello, everyone.
Aloha, I'm Veruschka. I'm a healing arts coach on the Big Island of Hawaii, and here I am on our back porch, lanai, with my wonderful friend and landlady and incredible energy worker and healer and oracle, Michon Olson. I met Michon back in 2008 here when I first visited the Big Island, and we did some work together and exchanges, and years later she welcomed me to steward her beautiful land, Grace. So thanks to her, I've been living in literal grace, and I'm so delighted by our visit right now. I'd love to share some of her beautiful wisdom. Michon, what do you call yourself?
Michon.
Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Aloha, I'm Michon. And I seem to have a propensity for naming everything. This beautiful home that we're sitting in is Grace, because she's simply so amazing. Or I must say, Grace is not the easiest place to live. If one toes that road, you can find your way to it. We have a beautiful hale in the back, hale ikepono, which is where we probably did our work together back then, I don't know. Hale ikepono is the house of clear vision. And I was literally thinking of letting Grace go on my journey over here this time, and when I got back to the hale, I knew there was no way. She has our hearts, and we love her. So we're keeping her. We have another beautiful home in Colorado named Gratitude. And so we're fortunate to live in both grace and gratitude. And what I call myself, I suppose, would be inspired well-being. Because of course that's the intention, right? We all want to be well. And isn't it just a blessing if it's actually inspired, which is led by spirit?
Well, I just have to share that Michon really does hardcore walk her talk and challenge me all the time with what is true and reflective consciousness about, you know, whatever the outside's bringing out in you is because that's inside of you. And truly, it's just been a miracle to witness how you have stayed the course and all the changes that have happened just in the short time that I've known you. So I'd love to hear about some of your more intense challenges in the last year and how you dealt with them.
In the last year, probably better to go back to the last 4 years. The last year was pretty much of a cruise because it just was. But 4 years ago, my mom passed, and my husband and I made a choice that really had a tendency to shatter our family unit. And what that did for me was that brought me out of my conditioned patterning as a member of this specific family and really gave birth to my authentic being. And that was really hard. And yet at the same time, there was a commitment that I made on the night that my mom died. And it was so intense. And my family, siblings and I were standing in a circle, and Mom was really the anchor. And when that anchor had been pulled, then we had 5 siblings that were on a different path, and we didn't know where that path was going to go. And so what I committed to that night was something that really shifted my reality, and that was recognizing that with Mom gone, I had nothing left to lose. The anchor had been pulled, and so I said to my siblings, because it wasn't a very loving experience, I said to them, and I committed to myself, that regardless of where the individual paths that we took us, if they ever were to find me, they would find me on the path of loving them. And choosing the path of love consciously and with conviction on that evening changed my life. It gave me the opportunity to walk that road. And that made a big difference in my world. Because you see, it doesn't really matter what anybody's opinion is, or what anybody's perception is, or what another's projection is. What matters is how you are with that. And that's where the choice lies, right? How am I going to be in this shit? Well, I found that the path of loving was a whole lot easier than the path of explaining and defending. Then it gave everyone the freedom to be. And I recall one time my brother, who I didn't know very well before this experience, was my champion during this experience. And he said, Sean, he says, I don't get it. How do you do it? How do you always take the high road? Right? I just told him it was easier. So I think that answers that question.
So, in other words, you didn't necessarily get resolution on the outside, but yet you got resolution on the inside, which made whatever drama or tension collapse. So,
Well,
in your experience.
did it collapse? It didn't collapse. No, I embraced it. It was fascinating. I had no idea how others perceive me. And resolution, to answer that question, does come from within. Whether the others have resolved whatever their stuff and their experience was, is their stuff and their experience. For me, my resolve is in loving them unconditionally and observing them through my heart, compassionately, and really being grateful for the opportunity to do so.
Well, that takes some mastery right there. So, can you share a little bit about how you can get to that unconditional love when family is very personal? How, I know that's probably your life's work, and yet in some cliff notes, can you share, some steps it takes to get to be able to practice that unconditionality and choose to implement it in the places that are so personal, when you're personally being judged or attacked or...
Yes.
treated.
I can do that. If one's perception is that they are being personally attacked, and the outer world is nothing but a reflection of the self that we don't see without ourselves. That's the only way we see it in polarity, right? Is we have the inside, and then we have what we perceive to be the outside. And for me, I see everything as a teacher. Everybody that comes into my space as a teacher. And what I came to practice through Matt Kahn is he has a book that he's titled "Whatever Arises, Love That." And I read like the first 3 or 4 chapters of it. And straight up, it says, well, what arises? There's a feeling that arises. And we perceive that feeling as occurring because of another. That person made me feel like this, and so therefore that. And so therefore. Whereas, if one were to take the opportunity to go into that emotion, you see we have the mental, the emotional. We have the thought, and then we have the emotion that's attached to it, right? And then we have it comes through our etheric body into our physical. And then we have the experience of whatever that creates. Through the perception of what we think another has done to us. But what that other has actually given us the opportunity to do is to love whatever arises in us, not them. They get to do whatever they want, but to love whatever they activate in us. And to bring that young one up. And you sit them down and they just say, hold please, and you bring them up and you put them into your heart. Now, and you ask them what they need to be known. It's a fascinating journey. It's a fascinating journey. Because you never know what they're going to say. But you know that when you've heard them, you feel it. For me, that creates a welling inside of, oh my gosh, that's what you thought. And so I'm so grateful for the other for showing me how I felt because of something that they said. What did that bring up in me? That's the gift. Let me give you an example. How much of an example? Okay. When I was 9, there was a catastrophe that happened in my family, and I witnessed it. And it changed the course of our family dynamic. And I was told that what I saw didn't happen, that something else happened. And so I forgot what actually happened. And I came to believe what I was told. And how that worked for me in my life is then I had a core belief, well, then I must be wrong. Right? Try that on. Because then the only way that I knew that I would do something right is to do what I was told or to follow somebody else's lead. And then you combine that to when I was 10 and a half. And I was confused by that time because my world had been turned upside down and I didn't know truth from lie. But I thought, well, that's okay. At that time, I was little and President Kennedy was the dude. I mean, the world loved Kennedy as far as my little mind knew. And then he was shot and killed. And that was a big bummer for me because in my little girl mind, he was the guy that I could count on. So now I didn't know truth from lying. The dude that I could count on was dead. So I got shut down even more. And then when I was 11, all these little aspects keep popping up. I go, who are you? I'm 9. Who are you? I'm 10 and a half. Who are you? Well, out of nowhere, my 11-year-old shows up because I'm having this emotion and I don't know where it's coming from, but I want to acknowledge it and help it release itself from the bondage that it's been living in by not being clearly seen, heard, and understood. I didn't even know that aspect was happening until I said, wow, well, who are you? And she said, I'm 11. And I said, well, all right. What happened at 11? And she goes, well, what grade were you in? And I went, 6. Well, what happened in 6th grade? Well, I was raised in Catholic school and I wanted to grow up to be a nun so I could marry Jesus. I love God. I've always loved God. God has been my guide. And Jesus and Mary and all of that, I loved all that. I felt at home in that space. Well, at the end of 6th grade, I was taken out of Catholic school and I wasn't told why. And what I came to feel through my 11-year-old is that they took God away from me. Oh, that was amazing to feel that belief system that I didn't know I had. And I burst into tears and I called my best friend. And I let my little 11-year-old know that there's no way that could ever happen. And that's why she's with me, right? So we can remember who we are. And that's not possible. Because without the spark of divine within, our blood wouldn't flow, our heart wouldn't beat, our eyes wouldn't sparkle and shine. It's the spark of the divine. It's the same in all of us, which is the reflection that we see in another, even if we don't recognize it. And so, to finish this, on that day that my 11-year-old showed up, my jaw released. Just starting to get a little tight again. But that was about 6-8 months ago. And so I know that there's something else activating because there's a little bit of tightness. And so what else that I held back? What else did I swallow? What else did I not speak? And so with all this created the personality that I lived out of, my conditioning. And then 4 years ago, I walked out of that role. I walked out of that world, and I walked into my authentic self. And so that's how I do it.
Did you have any idea, though, that could you even prepare that you would still have such tests after all the work you've done at your age, that when you lost your mother, all of the things that crumbled after that? I mean, did you feel like a victim at all when these things, these big scale misunderstandings happen?
I felt like a victim for a little bit of time, and I called my little brother and I cried. And he said, Sean, you had to do it again. Would you do the same thing? And I said, yeah. And he goes, then what's the problem?
Wise one right there.
And I said, thank you. And I was really given the opportunity to hold in compassion because it's so much easier. Those that I could have perceived have wronged me, but that's their journey. And this is mine. And yeah, you know, you feel like a victim until you really get that you're not. That's it. perception. It's not a reality, but it is to the mind. Because it all goes through the mind, right? The mental, the emotional, the etheric into our etheric body, and then we manifest it in our physical. And so the body is basically a roadmap for stuck and stored energy of a perception that has no basis in anything except the reality of the mind. Outside the mind, it doesn't exist. Outside the mind, we are pure divine. And then we get to live in grace and gratitude. But it's a commitment.
Well, it's a all hands on deck kind of job. But the payoff is really good, right?
Well, the payoff is freedom. The payoff is freedom from emotional attachment, freedom from outcome, freedom when it doesn't matter if it is or it doesn't matter if it isn't. All is well in the world. How are we going to opt in or opt out of it? And it's not about being in denial. I mean, I really get that this outer world, if one were to choose to consciously or unconsciously, no, you couldn't consciously live in the matrix. You could only really be unconscious in the matrix, but you wouldn't know that you were unconscious because that's what you think consciousness is until you step outside of it and really trust the process. Expect only the best to happen. And trust that it does. Ask, how does it get better than this? Please show me. It's crazy good. Because when we're shown by the powers that truly be, we could never imagine. I wanted one bathtub, I got 3. I wanted one pond, I got 2. I wanted a place to work, I got a whole little cabinet with a kitchen and a bathroom. And when one lives in, well, the commitment of grace and gratitude with compassion for all beings, and the commitment to stay in self-awareness, to be kind and generous, out of worry, no worries, really. I don't like that saying, but honestly, just send light. Worry isn't anything that I would want to receive from anybody. I don't want to worry, I don't think about me, I'm good. Send me light if you have a concern. Don't worry. Worry just throws worry my way, and then I have to deal with that. It's not mine, don't worry. I'm good. Trust me, trust us. Trust yourself. Be authentic. It's hard. It's so much easier than not. Because it's all karma, right? Right? I mean, it is the karmic wheel. Every time I have like a thought, I go, oh, sorry. I see myself in front of the karmic board, and I go, okay, way sorry for that time. Could I, like, if I can erase it right now, so I can just shine, just shine. I just want to be a welcome, shining being. Be of service.
Well, you totally are. So do you then, when you say I'm sorry, when you catch yourself, is that an act of forgiveness? Or how do you work with
it's just me trying to stay out of trouble with the karmic board.
Your own checks and balances.
That's my own check and balance, right? I just see them in front of me and I go, oh yeah, I remember that time. Oh yeah, I remember that time. Well, I could have cleaned that up, or okay, I didn't. And so it's for me, it's just easiest to clean it up in the moment that I'm feeling a constriction. And I've been sharing lately that if you're confused, you're in your mind, drop into your heart, and that's not necessarily an easy thing to do.
So with people that you work with and that also come to your house in Colorado, people working with trauma or grief or health conditions, what are some of the first things you do with them to help them understand their trauma or to help them unravel that?
I listen. And then I listen. And I take notes. And then I listen. And you'll find a pattern. And I ask, can you share with me an age of the conception of the pattern? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I take notes. And then the same pattern in a different story will present itself. So it is patterning. So I listen for the pattern. And I show them the inception of that belief system. And when they see that, then all the pixels of the pattern begin to meld together for them, where they can actually see the picture themselves. And when that occurs these days, this energetic that I call shows up. And is like the little one that recognizes itself as being less than, or the fear, or the desire to be invisible so one doesn't get caught being seen. For me and my work these days, when shows up, I know we're on something. And then I just go down that path. I never know where I'm going. Right? I never know. And I hold, please. And so, I don't even remember your question right now.
Around counsel,
Okay.
on trauma.
And so then when I find something, thank you. And so then when I find something, then I start sharing. An example might be, there's an individual who believes that she had hernia. She wasn't sure, nobody could tell her anything. All of the Western medicine said no, we don't know. One of them said yes, and so she's been in a lot of pain. Well, how long have you been in pain? Oh, for 10 months. Oh, what happened 10 months ago? Oh, well, this happened. Oh, okay. And when did you recall feeling like that before? Oh, well, this happened then. Oh, and so then when that happened, and this then occurred because of that. It was for her, it was a tearing away. It was a tearing away without her permission. Something that happened in kindergarten. She had to go to school. She wanted to go to school. She was torn away from her mother. She had the second birth of her second child. She had no power. She had her water broken. She had the placenta pulled from her body, tearing away from an authority saying, you don't do it this way. 10 months ago, she had another occurrence where it appeared that something of value was being taken from her without her permission. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense that she felt like she had a hernia if something was being torn from you without your permission. And so through the course of this, we had a couple of ahas show up, and the tears came with that, and the and so it could be that in that moment, the healing begins, because you realize that it's all an energetic. And how do you stand in your pelvic bowl with balance? How do you do that? How do you create from your second chakra? How do you do that? If in fact you believe that something of value is constantly being torn away from you, when you can see that you are the value, and then you bring those ones up, and eventually you speak through that, you grow them up. You grow that 4-year-old up. You grow that mother up who had that second child, who feels that her power was taken from her, and she feels shame, guilt, and remorse because she couldn't stand on her own at that point. She wasn't supposed to. She was still patterning. But this time, with what she perceives as being taken from her, she has the power to use her voice, and the authentic voice, and that's where the catch comes in, right? Because you got to walk through that fear. You got to walk through that fear of loss, of your surroundings, of the situation, of something that you believe to be yours rightfully. You have to be willing to let it go. You have to be willing to be in the allow of the process and be unattached truly to the outcome, because it's in the unattachment and the unknown that the miracles live. That's where spirit can take it and just create in a playground of whatever you want. What do you want? But you have to let go.
Well, I feel like that's one of the hardest things that you can't teach anyone or show anyone. How do you go from being just burnt out and like, screw that, and close, shutting it down or shutting that out or shutting them out, and like being non-attached. So that is the fine line of allowance than having like the cold-hearted unattachment.
Well, you ask the one who is attached. You ask the one who wants your attention. You ask that one, what are you attached to? I'm attached to wanting to be loved. I'm attached to wanting to be seen. I'm attached to wanting to be heard. I'm attached to wanting to be understood. Okay, well, what do you want me to know? Well, I want you to know that I feel very unloved, and that I feel a lot of fear, and that I feel like I've been ignored. And, well, what do you want me to do? I want you to pay attention to me. It's not outside you. It's this one inside that's asking for attention. It's this one inside who believes that she is undeserving of not receiving it. It's this one inside who has just simply forgotten who she truly is. She believes that she's a personality. She believes that she's an individual. She believes that she's separate from source. She believes that there's actually something outside of her, and she believes that the outside can make the inside good. But she's inside, and she's already good. And so you observe how she feels, as we spoke of earlier. When that emotion wells from that thought, then what aspect is that emotion that's welling? She's the one who wants your attention. Give it to her. And then you grow her up and you walk through by saying, well, whatever the situation is for you, whatever the situation is, if you really want something to occur and it's just not, then you feel how that feels to really want it, and how it looks like it's impossible for you to get because you're looking outside someone to give it to you. When who's really being activated is the one on the inside who believes she doesn't have it. And so you go to the inside, and that's what you keep doing. You just keep feeling that feeling. You just keep going into that emotion, and you just keep taking that next step then, because generally it's about wanting to be seen, heard, and understood. That was my first intention with my healings forever ago. And then I realized that I was really safe being invisible. I can be invisible like that. You don't even know I'm there. And that was all pattern. And now it doesn't matter if you know I'm there or not. I don't care. I'll talk to you about anything. I'm good with it. And it's okay with me if I'm not right.
Well, that's a miracle right there.
Right.
In the Western world, anyway. Yeah. Well, so it sounds like this is like an inner reparenting, right? Or what do you call it? Like a remothering, or being your own inner mother.
Yes.
So what are some techniques that you can recommend to put people on the path? Like, it sounds like to do that inquiry alone time.
Well, I would say Michon, whatever arises, love that. I would say, I've got this book at home. It's hard to find, but I can't think of the name of it right now. But one of my first books on the journey was, of course, Louise Hay, Bless Her Heart. You Can Heal Your Body, because the body for me is two things. One, it's the roadmap of our emotion. On another level, it's the biggest liar, because we're basically spirit. We're God. And we're the divine spark. And it's the emotions and the mental and the emotional and the etheric and the physical, those thoughts create this reality. They do. And if you just keep clearing those thoughts, you go with that perception of a hernia. Now, maybe that hernia is all gone today. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a real hernia. It's still the same work. And Louise Hay, Matt Kahn, oh, the Ascended Masters, anything by the Ascended Masters, they live in color. And I spend a lot of time with them, just in communion and in conversation. And I ask for their help constantly. If I really want to be imbued with the love light, I'll lie down for 5 minutes and see pink just going in, just allowing the pink, and you're going to feel better. Pick a color, research it.
You're also good at asking questions.
Oh yeah,
I'll just show me how does
Uh-huh.
it get better than this, or when we're not. Can you talk about that some more?
Sure. Well, just with grace. In 2000, John and I came over to the island, and one thing led to the next. We came in February, and by October of that year, John said, well, would you ever want to live here? And I said, sure, okay, why not? And I knew way before that I would eventually live on a country road someday, and only make a country road surrounded by the mountains and the oceans, and only make my way to the massive people whenever I needed a small dose. And we were in Hawaii, and it was beautiful, so beautiful. And I said to him at the beginning of our journey in February, I said, John, Olson, where else would you rather be? And next thing I know, we were in Hawaii. And before that, I didn't know how to stay with him. Nope. And I said, okay, if you want me to stay, not John, Spirit. It was good to have me go. And I got a clear message that you're not leaving. And I mean, I got to go. You're not leaving. I go, hey, I got to go. And they said, you're not leaving. And I said, well, if I'm not leaving, then you have to show me how to stay. And next thing I knew, I had a house across the ocean from him. And so we didn't have to actually leave each other, but we didn't have to live with each other either. And we got along great that way. And so with grace, that was what they did for me. Who knew I was going to live in Hawaii because I wasn't going to leave? I didn't know that. You don't know how it's going to look. You have no idea because you're stepping into the unknown. If I'm going to stay, wow. I only know what staying looks like. I don't know what not leaving looks like. I don't know how to do this. And then I was given the gift of grace. And when we were here on the island, maybe we were here 11 days, and I really felt her. And I said, I don't know where you are. You have to show me. And there's this list of things that they give you called something with bunches of houses on. And we looked at them in our price range, and that was that. I didn't find anything. But I knew she was here. And she said, go to the next one now. And I said, we can't go to the next one now. We can't afford the next one now. Go to the next one now. And I said, I knew where I wanted to be. I knew where I didn't want to be. I didn't really know where I wanted to be. I wanted to be by the ocean, near the mountain. I didn't want to be way down the road. I didn't want to be way near town. And so I looked to the next one, and it was this listing in Kaimu. I didn't know where Kaimu was, so I called the realtor and I said, where's Kaimu? And she said, what's in Kaimu? And I said, really? That's where that started. And we came down right to the end of the road as far as I really wanted to be. We turned left onto a country lane with mountains on the right side, the ocean down in front of us. And Grace was brought to us. She brought us to her. And I promised on that day that we signed on for her. I had the worst headache of my life because what are we doing with the house in Hawaii, for God's sake? I mean, it was the worst headache ever. Everything bad that could have happened to my body happened on that day when I said I do to Grace. And next thing I knew, we had a house in Hawaii. We were the only ones that, there were 3 other people, and we got her. So I vowed to take the very best care of her that I could in return for being blessed by her. I don't know, did I answer your question? I don't really know. I'm not very good at
Well, it
answering
is about
questions.
how to ask questions
How to
and be
ask
guided,
questions.
basically. That
Just ask
that
them.
You're,
What do you want to
you're
know?
just asking the universe.
Yeah, you just ask
And it
questions.
comes
I don't
to
know
you
where you
instead
are.
of
You have to show
going
me.
into, if you are not getting the answers here, it is the opening to the answer, the solution.
Well, yeah, because the answers here are going to be the little ones that need to be seen, heard, and understood. And they're going to be the ones with fear. And so you have to skip the fear. But the way you heal the fear is by asking the question. I don't know how to do this. Show me. Trusting the process, expecting only the best to happen. I trust the process. I expect only the best to happen, and it does. I don't know. Show me. And thank you, 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 thank you for everything. Thank you. Thank you. I'm always saying thank you. Thank you. Right?
She lives what she's preaching. So now that you have surprisingly settled in Colorado after being a San Francisco resident most of your life, what are the energies? Can you describe to us what living right next to the flowing lava on an active volcano is like in the jungle versus being in the mountains?
Well, it's a lot thicker air down here at sea level in Hawaii than it is at 7,500 feet in Four Corners, Colorado.
And let me add to that, what do you think also in conjunction these environments offer for one to work on? Or
well, here in Hawaii, you are on an active volcano and you can see her flowing if you walk up the lane. So you're on fire and I'm all water. I'm all water, someone's everywhere. No earth, no air, no fire, all water. So I'm a professional at emotion, which is why I'm probably so good at what I do, right? There are so many of them coming up all the time. But for me, I've never really connected so much with the earth energies as I have the invisible energies. And so I just know that Hawaii is very challenging. It's beautiful and it's very, very challenging. The air is a lot thicker. The ground is a lot hotter. But the communities are both similar that we landed in Puna and in Mesa Verde. They're very similar. It's like a vortex of energies. And here, for me, when I was here, I was a part of that vortex, but I didn't have the belief in myself that I do now because of that failure, right? 4 years ago. So I just stay in gratitude now. I stay in gratitude for being here. I listen to my intuition and I say, you want me to go to Hawaii? I don't want to go to Hawaii. You want to go to Hawaii? I don't want to go to Hawaii. Okay, you're going to have to show me how I'm going to get there. Boom, in 10 minutes. It was so clear that I was coming to Hawaii, I couldn't even believe it. And I went, you're kidding me, I'm coming to Hawaii. Because I said, if you want me there, you have to get me there and you have to show me. In 10 minutes, I heard from a woman that I had not heard from in 6 months, wanting to know if I'd be on the island at the time that I was thinking of going. So, you know, if you ask the questions and you are committed to staying in awareness for those answers to pop up, they will pop up. Then you have to act on them. And you step through that fear of whatever it is. You step through that doubt. And you just do it. And then you end up in Hawaii. And then I come to Grace and I see clearly why I'm here, because she needs a bit of an overhaul. She has a tendency to overgrow and to cloister and to cocoon. That's what jungles do. Jungles grow. And grace is a place where growth is demanded. So you might as well clear her out, right? And then in being grateful for the opportunity, things just fall into place with a couple of phone calls. It's seemingly impossible things happen. Everybody got trimmed in a heartbeat, which could generally be really complicated to get done here. No issue. It showed up, it got done. That's a miracle. And she's clean and she's clear now. And consequently, things are getting clean and clear here. Clean and clear here one more time. Grace is hard to live in. Unless you live in gratitude. Now, if you live in gratitude, then grace comes a whole lot easier because you're just grateful for everything. And if you're grateful, well, the universe is just so doggone happy that you're so grateful that they just keep giving you more to be grateful for. That's just how it works. And so that's grace for me. And then gratitude, what I did for gratitude was I opened up to having a really much bigger space. Why do I need a small little space? I can have bigger. I can have more. I can have more? Who knew? Thank you. And we have this most amazing home in Colorado, in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains. I'm living in the Rocky Mountains. And they're magnificent. And I knew forever and a day ago that somehow at the time that these changing times that we're in, that I'd be in the mountains because I would need the community, the sustainability of the spirituality, of the intellectual stuff. And just slid right in. And so now I know that I'm at that time. This is maybe 25 or 30 years ago. Oh, at these changing times, you'll live in the mountains. I'll live in the mountains? Okay. I'll live in the mountains. And here we are in the mountains. I had no idea we were going to the Rocky Mountains. I thought we were going north. We went south. Who knew the Southwest Mountains? I didn't. And we didn't know where we were going when we sold our house and we bought an RV and we went out to go to wherever we were taken. And I gave it a year, and in a year and 3 weeks, there was gratitude. And I do nothing except know that it's been a year. Well, here you go. And I'm making it sound easier than it is. I mean, it wasn't really all that easy because I had the emotional attachments to different things, and it was not the most comfortable situation that we found ourselves in that year in 23 different RVs. But I committed to it, and I was glad for it, and I was taken care of during it.
And you speak about allow, right? Can you give some advice on how to practice that allowance?
Okay. Let's see.
I mean, it may be
to whatever it is that occurs, to be an allow of it. And again, it just goes right back to that inner emotion that comes up. Something occurs in the outer world, and it's like, will you be an allow of it? Okay, so let's take, for example, out in the Matrix. There's all kinds of crazy shit happening. Oh, and it has to happen because we're in the changing times. And so we have to be in allow of the process that's occurring for the highest good of the planet, for the highest good of the universe. Everything that's out in that matrix has to crumble. It has to be brought up. And how are we going to be in it? How are we going to be in it? We're going to listen to the news? We're going to believe anything that mainstream has to say? There's just so much more out there. And knowing that the powers that be are so far beyond the powers who believe they are the ones in power, They're just human beings. And it looks bad. But not if you live outside the matrix, not if you live in allow. And that doesn't mean that you're living in denial, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter in the matrix, but outside the matrix, it doesn't matter, because I'm simply just allowing the matrix to be, and I'm not buying into it. I know that the invisible realms are what's true and real for me. And the spark of divine that lives within each of us is what's true for me. And knowing that no one can take that from you, then no one has any power over me. And I was watching, I think I told you this, I was watching that movie, Gravity. And at the very end of it, Sandra Bullock is there, and she thinks that, well, there's nothing else that she can do. She's done her best. She's given it all. She's done a good job. The job is done. There's nowhere she can go. And she's sitting there in her little spacesuit in her rocket ship that is completely disabled, and there's no way back to Earth. And when George Clooney comes in out of nowhere, lost in space, there he is, and he gives her the direction. But before he comes in, she's sitting there, and this had a profound effect on me. She's sitting there, and she completely let go. It didn't matter if she lived. It didn't matter if she died. It didn't matter. She was good to go. Either way. And that had a profound effect on me. Because with the state of the world, the way that it is, the very best thing that we can do is shine. Is to be the light that we are. That's the very best we can do. Don't worry. Shine. Be your authentic self. Step through the fear. Roll those little ones up. Be an allow of another's process. And notice how that process affects you. And if the process is something that you know is just too freaking much for you, you don't have to be a part of it. You can make another choice. You can make another choice and create a different outcome. It's not like we have to fix anything. It's not like we have to test ourselves. If we get really clear that this process is not something that I really care about being comfortable in, I can be of higher service. The more comfortable I am in myself, the higher service I can be out to someone else. And so then to step out of what I think might be the right thing to do for another, if it doesn't feel comfortable for me, I have to come to comfort within myself to be able to be of service to another, to that one. And once I'm comfortable within myself, and I've taken care of myself, then I can take care of another. I won't jump into their spin. I won't be sucked in. I'll be in allow of their process, but I don't need to be necessarily a part of it. And I used to think that I had to have everything be okay. It's not. And I get to choose what is and what isn't. But I don't step out of my heart of compassion, and I don't step out of my heart of love, and I don't step out of being kind. And I never make another person wrong. Because it's not about them. So it takes practice. And I would encourage you to play down with your favorite color. And like if your favorite color is yellow, go look up the Ascended Masters. Yellow. See what happens. You'll find Lord Lanto. Check him out. You want green. You'll find Master Hilarion. You want violet. You'll find Master Saint Germain. They're all out there. And they're all right here waiting for us to ask for their assistance.
Well, I can't help but notice that our screen has been flickering violet and green and pink. Not sure if it's going to translate. Anyway, it's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Your sharing is just simply divine.
Thank you.
And your practice and consciousness is just paid off in the material.
Well, it is
this
about
world.
practice.
Yeah.
Practice, practice, practice.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. And really just know that there is nobody outside you. And I know that that's tricky. That's tricky. But if we can see in what, like one more example before we go. My husband, bless his soul, is the best sitter ever in the universe of anybody that could sit. He can sit. Man can freaking sit. Man, crazy. He'd sit right here and embrace it. I couldn't sit. So I was being shown that I must. Right? He was making me freaking crazy because all I did was sit. And I was being shown that I did. And that I needed to practice that. And it was hard. But when we look at another and we see whatever it is that we believe they're doing to irritate us, we just see how irritated we are with ourselves for not being able to do whatever they're showing us. And so I can't really say that I sit so much more yet, but his sitting really doesn't do it so much anymore. He sits a lot, but not as much. And and it doesn't bother me to see him sit anymore. It just still shows me how I have to. It's all about you. So thank you. This has been really fun.
And if you would like to get in touch with Michon, I'll be including her contact info. She's available to chat with, Skype with, Zoom with, phone with.
I am. I'm going to ask this one to set me up on Zoom because I have been asked to be more out there, more publicly out
And
there.
this is a little step
Which
right
I
here.
totally resist. I had no idea this was going to be a video. I just say yes, right? And I'm going, okay, let's boogie, baby. So I love what I do, and I'll get set up on Zoom, and Veruschka, I guess, has my number and my email. I don't
And
know what she's
Michon
gonna
is
give
the
you.
true salt of the earth, and this is here in Grace is where salt of the earth was born, and Michon and John really are salt of the earth. So
Thank you,
I'm
honey.
so grateful to get to hold this here with you. I love you.
I love you too. Aloha.
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 All right, you see
Mahalo.
it all. Aloha.